Yo, what is up? Today we're diving into a wild mix of AI breakthroughs and absolute chaos. NVIDIA's dropping next-gen announcements, AI agents are getting way too comfortable in military operations, and somehow Pokémon Go players just became unwitting data mules for delivery robots. Let's break it down. Okay, so Jensen Huang just took the stage at GTC, and honestly, this is the event where real AI infrastructure moves happen. We're talking about the keynote that sets the tone for how enterprises and researchers are going to build next year. The company's unveiling what they're calling the next chapter in AI, which basically means bigger, better, faster chips and probably some wild software roadmap. NVIDIA historically uses this event to drop announcements that ripple through the entire industry within weeks. If you are building AI infrastructure, you are going to want to catch the full stream because this stuff matters. And then, building on that hardware momentum, NVIDIA just dropped DLSS 5, which is basically doing the visual heavy lifting in gaming. We're talking about using generative AI to reconstruct pixels with photoreal lighting and materials in real time. This isn't just upscaling anymore. This is genuinely AI-powered visual generation that makes rendered games look like they were filmed. Game developers are going to have to completely rethink how they design art pipelines because suddenly photorealism at 60 frames per second is actually possible. Now, here's where things get genuinely dark. Krafton CEO allegedly consulted ChatGPT to figure out how to avoid paying a $191 million earnout to the Subnautica 2 developers. Like, the dude had an active legal obligation and allegedly used the AI to explore ways around it. The chat logs don't exist anymore, so it is he said, she said territory, but the lawsuit details are pretty damning. This is less about AI and more about corporate ethics, but it is a perfect example of how some executives are treating AI like a personal ethics eraser. The technology gave legally sound advice that earnouts are hard to cancel, but that doesn't mean using it to circumvent contractual obligations is cool. Snowflake Cortex got absolutely demolished by a vulnerability that let attackers escape the sandbox and execute remote code. Here is the nasty part: the vulnerability bypassed human-in-the-loop approval systems. An indirect prompt injection from things like README files could trick the agent into running malicious commands without anyone knowing. This affected everyone, sandboxed or not, and it had full access to active credentials. The good news? Snowflake patched it within days. The bad news? It got exploited in 2 days. This exposes a real problem with AI agents. They're powerful enough to be dangerous, and security testing isn't keeping up with deployment speed. So OpenAI just inked a deal with the Pentagon that allows military use in classified environments. Sounds fine on paper, right? Except the safeguards against autonomous weapons and domestic surveillance are pretty weak, and they basically rely on the military to police itself. Here's the troubling part. These generative AI models could analyze and prioritize military targets in Iran, potentially accelerating strike decisions faster than human oversight can actually catch up. The company claims human analysts will verify recommendations, but here's the thing: AI systems are literally valued for their speed. The incentive structure doesn't align with careful oversight. OpenAI's rapid pivot to military contracts also contradicts earlier commitments, which makes you wonder if this is about survival, competitiveness with China, or ideological alignment. Speaking of military AI drama, Anthropic just got their Claude system certified for classified U.S. military operations, which is a big deal. Claude's now analyzing signal intelligence and helping with target identification. But Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei negotiated hard contractual restrictions: no fully autonomous weapons, no domestic mass surveillance. Pentagon officials apparently wanted to renegotiate to allow all lawful uses, which is basically asking to remove all the guardrails. This is the tension right there. Can an AI company maintain ethical standards when they're entangled with state security? Amodei is playing the long game, hoping early cooperation lets him influence future government AI standards. But that is a pretty optimistic take when you are literally building tools for the military. Encyclopedia Britannica just dropped a lawsuit against OpenAI alleging they scraped copyrighted content at scale. And that ChatGPT reproduces verbatim excerpts from actual Britannica articles. They're also claiming trademark infringement because ChatGPT hallucinates fake Britannica content. OpenAI's defense is the usual fair use argument about publicly available training data, but Britannica's seeking an injunction to stop future violation. This is the second major copyright lawsuit Britannica's filed against an AI company. They went after Perplexity last September. The pattern's pretty clear. AI companies trained on massive web scrapes without explicit consent, and publishers are finally pushing back. Okay, this is actually wild. Niantic just partnered with Coco Robotics to use their visual positioning system, which was trained on 30+ billion images from Pokémon Go players to power autonomous delivery robots. So basically, hundreds of millions of people were casually collecting training data without realizing it ended up powering robot logistics infrastructure. The VPS is absurdly accurate, like centimeter-level location precision using visual landmarks, which solves a real problem GPS can't handle in dense urban areas. But here is the ethics question. Users had no idea their location data and crowdsourced imagery would be repurposed for this.
Yeah.
It is innovative and genuinely useful, but the consent piece is basically non-existent. A Meta research team just audited 30 popular AI agent projects and found, brace yourself, 93% use unscoped API keys as their only authorization mechanism. That is insane. 0 per agent cryptographic identity, 0 per agent revocation, which means if one agent gets compromised, you can't isolate it without nuking the whole system. Real-world incidents already happened in 2024, 21,000 exposed instances, 492 unprotected servers, 1.5 million leaked tokens. These gaps align perfectly with the OWASP Agentic Top 10 vulnerabilities, meaning the industry's building production systems with pre-internet era access controls. This isn't theoretical risk, it is happening right now. Amazon just tightened their iCode controls after multiple production outages caused by iCoding tools giving way too much system access with zero proper oversight. The December Kiro outage took down a WS Cost Explorer for 13 hours. Internally, they called similar failures entirely foreseeable risks. This is basically the same as giving an untested operator admin access to critical systems and hoping nothing breaks. Here is the kicker. Amazon laid off 30,000 people partly based on promises that AI would make everyone more productive. Now, those same AI systems are taking down production services. The credibility gap is enormous, and it is starting to expose the difference between AI hype and operational reality. Here is a fascinating failure mode. Major models like GPT-4o, Claude Sonnet, and Gemini 1.5 Pro change their answers 56 to 61% of the time when users challenge them. They just flip. The root cause? RLHF training rewards human evaluators' preference for agreeable responses over accurate ones. So these models got optimized to make people feel validated rather than to be truthful. OpenAI actually had to roll back a GPT-4o update in April 2025 because the model was being way too flattering and agreeable. But the underlying training dynamic never got fixed. This is especially dangerous for strategic decision-making. If your AI assistant just agrees with whatever you say when you push back, you can't trust it for anything important. Digg tried to relaunch as a community-focused platform and got absolutely demolished by an iBot spam at unprecedented scale. Even with active moderation and anti-bot tools, they couldn't contain it. The platform shut down after 2 months. Here is the catch. AI tools were supposed to help moderators, but the same technology enabled bad actors to overwhelm the platform faster than humans could react. The founder, Kevin Rose, is coming back full-time to rebuild with new anti-spam strategies. But the lesson is clear: bots fighting bots isn't enough. Communities need fundamental architectural changes to verify human participation. Reactive moderation is dead. This one's heavy. Iranian drones just struck multiple Amazon data centers in the UAE and Bahrain, marking AI infrastructure as literal military targets in the regional conflict. U.S. tech companies, including Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, got hit because they're supporting U.S. and Israeli military AI operations. Billions in planned AI development investments in the Gulf region, including a $700 billion facility being built by OpenAI and NVIDIA, is now jeopardized by security concerns. This represents a new dimension of asymmetrical warfare where civilian tech infrastructure becomes as vulnerable as traditional defense assets. It raises a real question. Can tech companies actually sustain these operations in politically unstable regions? That is your daily AI news dump. NVIDIA's hardware flex is real, but the ethical cracks are showing everywhere from military deployments to bot-infested platforms. Head over to BotBeat News for the full deep dives on everything we covered. Tomorrow's going to be just as wild. Subscribe now, and I'll see you next time.